Good morning. I am Karen Ray. This is Fave Lifestyles. We are the Fave Biz Society, but this is our Ask the Expert, and this is going out to our lifestyle group as well as our business community because this is a topic for ladies who are walking through divorce. And I know a lot of you have, maybe you have walked through divorce, maybe you have a girlfriend who is walking through that process and know how overwhelming and scary sometimes that can be, or you just don't know what is next, a very uncertain situation. And Jessie Deason is here to come and talk with us today. Hi, Jessie.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, yes. And you have a business, Serene Financial Planning. Is that correct?
Yep, Serene Divorce Planning.
Serene Divorce Planning. Okay, I didn't have my notes right in front of me. I'm like, my memory is just not as good as it used to be. But I love that. Just think if you could walk through that transition in life with calm and peace and have a plan and feel confident. Oh my gosh, because I have walked through that and I didn't know what to expect.
So many of my clients feel like they're stepping off a financial cliff when it comes to divorce. The reality of divorce is you're taking one income, same amount of income, and now you're stretching it across two households instead of just one household. And so everyone has that sense of, I know I'm going to need to tighten my belt, but I don't know how much. And I don't know what's going to need to change about my life and how I'm going to have to reset my short-term financial goals or my long-term financial goals. Yes. And so I own a small business in Everett, in Snohomish County, and individuals and couples hire me to help them make financial decisions during divorce. So people hire me to help bring some financial clarity to divorce and their decision-making process.
Oh my gosh. If I had known you, that's exactly what you need, because that, especially as a woman. And so like with my situation, and everybody has their own space, but like you said, you're splitting that one household income that you've been managing into two. And what is that going to look like for the long term, the short term and the long term? And how can you walk and feel safe and secure in those decisions that you now need to make? So exciting. So today we're going to be talking about the second Saturdays, and this is a space where women can go and just ask questions. So Jessie, tell us a little bit about this.
Right. So in January of this year, 2022, I started running Second Saturday Divorce Education Workshops for Snohomish County. And so Second Saturday Workshops are an educational series that were founded in 1988, so over 35 years ago, by two female financial advisors in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And they specialized in working with women, and they realized their community did not have a resource where women could turn to get professional, unbiased information about divorce. And so they started this workshop series. Today, it's affiliated with a national nonprofit, the Women's Institute for Financial Education. And this national nonprofit relies on volunteers to host local workshops in communities around the country. So on the second Saturday of every month, there are volunteers across the country that host these workshops in their communities. And so, go ahead.
Oh, no. So women can go ahead and just like hop on there, and it's a virtual?
Yep. So our, the ones in Snohomish County, we feature a family law attorney, a financial professional, and a mental health professional, each providing non-biased, professional, information you can rely upon for divorce. Our workshops are 2 hours, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. over Zoom. So Zoom makes it convenient. You can log in from your car, your kitchen table, from your best friend's house, from your sister's house, wherever you need to be. You can log in and you can be anonymous. So if you want to have the cover of anonymity, you can have that, collect information, hear from other attendees, get ideas from a safe space.
Wow. Love that. So would a woman come and need to have some questions, or is it better just to come kind of and listen? So is it interactive? Tell us kind of the format or what you would expect to experience there.
It's definitely interactive, and depending on how many attendees we have, we structure it differently. When we have more attendees, it's more of a formal presentation. Each professional has a slide deck of, important points that they want to communicate. But there's always a portion for question and answers. You'll certainly get your questions answered. And if for some reason you don't get your question answered, you have the contact information for all the hosts, and they'd be happy to reach out to you with more information. When we have fewer attendees, we're able to, we do it more informal. We try to get the gist of where everyone is at the beginning to kind of cater it to the few attendees that we have. So for example, if no one has dependent children, then we know we can skip the part about child support. Mm-hmm. We can skip the part about parenting plan. But if we know everyone has a home, if we know everybody has, two spouses that work and are really gung-ho about divorce, not just thinking about it, they're going to be implementing, then we can really structure it specifically so people can walk away with resources they can implement for their own situation.
Wow. So are there like a checklist, a divorce checklist of some key points that you hand out or anything like that? Or is
we do have resources that we do hand out, and especially, definitely for individuals that are looking for something specific, we can definitely provide something that's specific. When it comes to, so I give the financial piece. Usually my talk focuses around common pitfalls that I see in divorce. And so I get the sense from all our attendees, they have their notebook, they have their pen, and they're taking notes.
Yeah. Oh, pitfalls. Okay, so let's just talk about, we're going to take a little side note here. What are a couple of the pitfalls?
I say one common pitfall in divorce is thinking emotionally and not strategically about your finances. You really need to separate the emotional piece from, this is a legal process with huge financial ramifications, and you need to think strategically. I guess that's going to be my biggest takeaway for today, is to not worry about little things on the emotional side. Don't worry about, sticking it to your ex. Try to think big picture, and where do you want to end up long term, and how can you craft your divorce settlement to achieve those goals?
Oh, I love it. Yes, and one of the things which I know, because it is such an emotional time, it's great to have something like this where you can just go, okay, I've got to sit here and be strategic about this. I also had a girlfriend who was not even involved at all. She would just take notes for me, because you get so emotional, but it's nice to have something like this that you can kind of tap into and just kind of get the bigger picture, the bigger outline and focus on you versus the other person. I just love this, how you have structured this. Yeah. So is there another big pitfall that's the biggest one right there. I think that women, if they can just go in there like that, that sounds really great. So is there another one that is just really comes to mind for you?
I think another one is keeping the house when you can't afford it. And this is one where you really need to run the numbers. Yeah. And running the numbers looks like estimating what your income will be after divorce and what your expenses will be. And really, taking an honest look at the numbers and being realistic with yourself. When I have my clients build a budget, a post-divorce budget, what do you think it's going to look like to live as a single person? And when it comes to home ownership, I see time and time again things that get missed. And so, for example, big improvements on your house that are coming up in the next few years. You need to be thinking about how are you going to pay for those things when you need a new roof, a new furnace? Are you saving a little bit every month to make sure you can cover those expenses? How about expenses that only happen once or twice a year? Like a big fall cleanup in your yard or getting Christmas lights strung on your house. People forget those. And then a big one is, what things did your ex do around the house that you're going to have to pay someone to do or learn yourself? So if you're married to a handy person who could do things and that person is gone, you are responsible. So unless you're going to get on YouTube and get that wrench out, it looks like you're hiring somebody. And it can be a big expense also.
Absolutely. In fact, and the reason I'm laughing so much is because I am not handy. I have several sisters who are super great. They can fix this. I have a broken closet door, and I'm like, how's this going to get fixed? I was going to put out into our group, do you know a handyman? Because you have to now hire those things, and to think ahead as you're getting older too.
Yes, that's a
some of those things that you could do before you might not be able to do in your 60s or 70s.
That's an excellent point. Yes.
And yes, I love how you bring those things up, because you're right. Those are not things you might think about.
No.
Yeah. Or is your car going to break down in the future? Or is your lease going to be up? Those big expenses like that. How is that going to look, and how is it going to budget out? Oh my gosh.
And like a lot of my clients forget to
Yeah.
consider, you're going to have your own cell phone plan. If you're on a family plan, you're probably getting a discount. So that's going to go up. Are you on bundled car insurance, bundled home and car insurance? You're probably getting a discount for that. That's going to go away. And so there's lots of little areas where, you can look at your old information, which is super helpful. I guess another common pitfall is people guess. They guess about what it will cost to live.
Oh, yeah.
It is a time of transition, and some things you will have to make estimates about. But going back, looking at old bank statements, old credit card information, that is a great source of information. But you also have to think about, well, what's going to change for each of these categories? Is my commute to work different than it used to be because I live somewhere new? Am I commuting to another house to get my kids occasionally, on a schedule? Is that going to add to my transportation bill?
Yes. And one of the biggest things that I had troubles figuring out was, okay, am I going to buy or am I going to rent? And if you're going to rent or buy, whatever it is, what is the budget for that? What is that monthly budget? What can you actually afford? Like if you're going to have an apartment, what can you really afford? Is it
Absolutely?
Is it $5? Do you have to go rent a room, or can you afford your own apartment? Do you need to have a roommate? What's that going to look like for long term? Because you have to plan it out to be, in my family, we live a long time. So maybe to 100.
Right. And in our area of the country, it is so expensive that, housing takes such a big chunk of your budget. It really is such an important expense to really do your homework about and think, and really think about.
Right. So that's why it's so great to have somebody like you who can do those numbers and really give you a really realistic picture. And like you said, because otherwise you kind of guess, like, oh, I think I have enough money to do. Oh, this looks like a big chunk of money I'm getting but what does that look like over several years' time?
Right. And a big chunk of money that you might be getting in a divorce settlement might have more than one purpose. And, how much of it is actual property that you should be thinking about saving for the future? I mean, is it stuff that if you were still married, would you be thinking about selling these things to support your lifestyle now? If not, then as a single person, you're getting a chunk of this property. You shouldn't be thinking about selling it to support your lifestyle now. Because if you weren't before, maybe this is stuff to keep for long-term goals like retirement. But when you're getting a whole chunk of money up front, it is very difficult to understand, well, maybe a portion goes for this goal and a portion goes for that. It's really helpful to help think it through with somebody else.
Absolutely. I so wish I would have known you a couple years ago. That would have just given you a really peace of mind. Because there's so many uncertainties, especially if there was maybe something that was unexpected or wherever you're at. Oh gosh, that sense of peace of mind. So that's what we're going to call you, Dad. And I love how it
sounds great.
Serene. So what else is there any other things that they should know about as walking through this? So you said you have, there's a person there with the mental health piece.
Mm-hmm.
And so is there anything in that realm that comes to mind to share with the ladies today?
I think the mental health component comes into play a lot with individuals who are going to be co-parents after the divorce is over. And so there is a mental shift that happens between we are now no longer spouses and we are now co-parents. And how can we foster a relationship with each other that supports our kids? And when our kids graduate high school and when they get married, what do we want for our kids? Do we want to be able to dance together at our kids' weddings and sit at the same table at the graduation party and be civil and laugh and have fun? What kind of co-parents do we want to be? And when you're getting divorced, that's a great time to start thinking about what can we do now to set up success down the road for our kids.
I like that. Yes. Again, I wish I would have known you to just start developing that right mindset and just to think about the future, because you're so into all the emotion and everything of the moment that it's sometimes really hard to see anything in the future.
It is so difficult. I mean, there is just
Yeah.
so much going on, especially if it was a surprise, having to find a new place. There's the money, money feels tight. There's emotional, there's so much going on. But if you can kind of pause and put some of that aside and think about where do I want to be? Where do I want my family to be in the future? It will really pay dividends going forward.
Wow. Challenges you too to kind of get out of the muck and the mire and to kind of walk in that dignity and grace, if you will, and to see what you want, how you want your family to be in the future. So, wow, oh my gosh. And so that legal piece, you said you also, there's a legal person too, that one of the things that I found is that, and I went to encourage these ladies, and that's why I wanted to have you on here. Education is power. The more you know about even Washington state law, what Washington state law says about divorce, not your soon to be ex, because that can be a little different sometimes, but really to know what the law says and where you stand in that. I think that gives a sense of security. So is there like a guidelines or what kind of information is given during this second Saturday?
Sure. So the family law attorney usually touches on kind of the process for divorce, filing papers with the court and what do these papers say and what do they mean? Divorce processes. So divorce is a legal option where at the end you're filing papers with the court. But to get from now to that, you can go a few different routes. You can hash it out with your spouse over a kitchen table. You can hire a mediator. What does that look like? There's a process called collaborative divorce, where the attorneys are trained in alternative dispute resolution, and it's more of a team approach to divorce. So there's a few different routes you can go depending on what your family dynamics look like. And then what else does the family law attorney touch on? Probably in our state, what does community property mean and what does separate property mean? So we're one of just a handful of states in the country where assets collected during a marriage kind of mean something specific. And that can have, sometimes that plays a big role in your divorce. Not always, but often. And so that's some, kind of terms to be aware of. What do these things mean? And if you hear these terms, this is what it could mean for your situation.
Yeah, isn't that great? Just that education piece, because you're working, I mean, with all the finances, the mental health piece, and this legal piece, and you may not have heard some of those words even being used, and you hear from TV shows what you think is going to happen, which may not be reality. Excuse me. So yeah, it's good to hear from the actual professional. Whether you decide to use the professional, or do it yourself or whatever, those many different routes that you can take, it's good to know your options.
Yes.
I like options. Options are good.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. So how do people find you? How do they come and work with you? What's kind of your process there?
Yep. So the name of the company is Serene Divorce Planning. You can find it on Google. You can also find on my website, there's a tab about the workshops, and there's a link to Eventbrite. So attendees can register for the workshops on Eventbrite. And so reach out to me via my website if you'd like to learn more information. It is a deep dive of information working with me. And really, information is power. We need to have accurate data to make good decisions. And so basically, it's a huge financial data collection effort up front. And it's kind of akin to when you're trying to qualify for a mortgage and they want all this back information, but is that and then some. Okay. So you get all your records to me and I build a report. And it says, in your situation, you have these are your assets, these are your liabilities, and they total to a number at the bottom. And what are some creative ways that we can split up that number at the bottom so that you and your spouse, or you in particular, can achieve your short-term and long-term goals?
Oh.
And then we have a post-divorce budget, which we already touched on. So at the end of the month, do we think you have a shortfall, not enough money to live on to pay your bills, or do you have a surplus? And if there's a shortfall, let's start brainstorming some ideas to close that shortfall.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I love it. Just putting it in those terms. I mean, even, wherever you're at in life, this is a good plan. And to see where you're going to be, and to really have a clear direction on how you can live, the direction you can go, if you can take vacations, or what that's really going to look like for you, and where do you want to be in 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jesse, thank you for coming and sharing with us. So good. I feel like this, talking with you gives some women some hope, because I have walked through that situation myself. And just to know that there's information and people out there that can help you and make you feel safe and have that clear direction. So thanks for visiting with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Okay, we'll see you next time, and Ask the Expert.